Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that takes a look at the Richard Curtis film About Time, 2 minutes at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Luke Allen, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Robert E.G. Black.
Hello.
And our special guest. Are you able to introduce yourself to us all?
Sure. My name is James Anderson, and I'm on lots of different podcasts. The By the Minute podcast I'm currently recording is Crossroads Minute, which is a Britney Spears related podcast.
Is it all about that movie?
It is all about that movie.
Wow.
It's a By the Minutes podcast of that movie.
I haven't seen it, but that was a surprising... Mind you, I guess this is probably a surprising choice for a lot of things as well.
I think that there's two ways to go with By the Minutes podcast. I can't believe someone hasn't done this, and has anyone heard of this?
Yeah.
I was surprised with how many people know that this film exists, to be honest. Especially in the States. Like, most of my friends don't know about this film. So when I posted in, like, Movie by Minute, and a lot of you guys were like, oh yeah, I was like, oh wow, okay. This is a film that people know. Just, I'm still trying to get my friends to watch it, because I'm becoming more and more obsessed. So, I guess we'll jump straight into minute 16.
Yeah.
The first line is, come in. Tim, Charlotte. Oh, you've written those names, haven't you? On the transcript, I guess. I was wondering why they just suddenly said their names. Right, let's start again. So
they do say each other's names.
They do? Okay. Don't worry about it then. Yeah, so... Oh, actually, never mind. The transcript doesn't show. We've got the rest of the flashback first.
Yeah.
At the start of the minute. I think you talked quite a lot about it at the end of the last minute. Is there anything more to say about this, the whole flashback?
No, I mean, it's only the second one, so I can't confirm a pattern yet, but they do seem to do the shots going backward and then come slightly forward again before it stops, like he's focusing in on the moment he needs to go to. So if that's consistent, that's kind of cool.
So then we've got Tim walking out the cupboard, which is still just such a wonderful thing. Like, as I think I've said several times, it almost normalizes time travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he had a big sci-fi machine or something, it wouldn't feel right. The fact that he's just coming out. I guess what initially the TARDIS was in Doctor Who, in the 60s as a police box, it's just a normal thing that people are using to travel in time.
Right.
So yeah, he sort of walks out and he sort of, how do I say it? Like the way he sort of moved his body to sort of prepare himself for what he truly believes at this point is the big moment where Charlotte will give him a chance.
I said the confidence of a man who thinks he has a sure thing. Like,
so much so that he starts walking into her door before she finishes saying come in. He knocks and starts pushing the door. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I know how this is going to go.
So, come in, Tim, Charlotte, hi, sit down. And, I mean, even the I don't know what it is, but the outfit she's wearing just really stood out to me. Like, every time I watch this, there's something about it that just seems a little different. It is the same bed, isn't it, as the last one? Like, it just looks different. Yeah, it's just a different angle, I guess. Right. But yeah, it's like, is it just me, or is there something about, like, that blue dress that she's wearing? I can't tell what it is, but it just stands out so much.
Yeah, it looks like a dress more than, like, she's ready for bed, which was when it came the last time.
Is it even a night, though? Because, he's in, like, shirt and trousers, and she's in a dress.
Yeah. People are talking downstairs, so it's not that late.
So then he gives this incredible speech, which I'll try and read out in one go. I know you've probably suspected this, but over the last month I've fallen completely in love with you. Now, obviously this was going to happen because you're a goddess with that face and that hair, but even if you didn't have a nice face, and even if you had absolutely no hair, because of some bizarre medical reason, I'd still adore you, and I just wondered whether, by any chance, you might share my feelings. It's so wonderful. It's such a... Because he started so strong.
Yeah, and then he got weird.
I had a thought about this, and I was sitting here actually when we were waiting to start the call. I was sitting here reading this note over and over again, seeing if I still believed what I wrote. So I want to put it to you two. if you tell someone that you would love them even if they were bald and ugly, does that render any future comments on how much you like their face or their hair or whatever, does that, like, deflate your comments? Because you're like, I know I've established that I'd like you if you were bald or ugly, but your hair looks nice. It's like,
it definitely separates
who cares?
Yeah. I don't know if it deflates them, but it separates
never thought
them
of it in that way, to be honest.
It's like you're hamstringing yourself in advance of any you've taken physical appearance off the table. I know that's not what he's saying. Like I keep going back and forth. Like, he's not saying that. He's saying, in addition to having great face and hair, I think there are great things about you, despite, even in addition to that stuff. But the way he says it, I was like, boy, you're sure being like, I don't care how you look. Which is good. Ugh, I don't know. I go back and forth.
Although, last week, we literally, like he's saying about how he likes her despite the fact that she's, good looking. But she's got no personality whatsoever.
Yeah, that's all she is.
As we sort of discussed last week, I like to think of this film as Tim is telling us a story.
Yeah.
And thus, how he looked at her at that time as just being the attractive girl, that's how we see her.
Yeah.
And why that summer has sort of merged together into just a 5-minute moments of embarrassment. But, yeah, the fact that there was something else about her that he liked, supposedly, it's just...
It's like you want to say something. You don't want to be like, hey, you're really hot, so, like, do you want to get together or something? Like, you want it to be more than that, especially if you think it's a sure thing, that you are going in knowing, like, aha, I'm doing the thing she said, if only I'm doing it. So, she's mine. So I don't want to just start off with, I find you physically attractive, and that's all. But you also need to back up, like, well, okay, so now what about her personality are you talking about? Like...
So, Robert, to steal your role of looking at the visuals, I think, especially like this opening shot of him walking into her room.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite prolonged, that look through the door, and it's handheld as well. Like, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah. Also, he walks around the wrong side of the camera, so it comes across... It's a weird moment. Because he came from the right of the closet, and then he goes around the camera where it's now placed, and you don't do that. And so it makes the moment kind of... Maybe it's deliberate to make it more awkward, because the handheld is also really obvious in the shots.
And I mean, like, the way that Charlotte looks at him, like, for a moment, you think he has a chance.
Well, yeah, she bounces up onto her knees and pats the bed. Like, she seems eager for him to be there.
Yeah.
And I mean, as, like, Richard Curtis even put it out in the commentary, like, she leans in. Like, that is... She's so horrible in how sort of flirtatious she is and how much she teases him throughout the whole thing. It's just... I mean, she tries to be nice here with how her final line in this minute and how it carries on to the next. Like, she tries to be nice and says she doesn't know he can travel in time. Like, she's let him off.
Right.
Well,
I mean, is it the fact that he's making... Because, refresh my memory, I only watched these minutes and it's been a little bit since I've seen the movie in its entirety. Doesn't he make kind of like a big speech on the last night, too? Like,
yes.
He just... So, maybe what she's looking for is not a big speech. Like, he's kind of asking for a commitment from her both times.
Yeah.
Like, maybe she's just looking for some summer fun and not, like... You mean everything to me. You are a goddess. I mean, like, that's kind of a lot of pressure.
Like summer flirting and like a spontaneous kiss on the last night or something. Yeah, that's all it needs to be, and I think that's almost like he gets better with Mary. In that manner, like he isn't with Mary trying to be so grand. I mean, let's look at the proposal, for example. Right, obviously that's.
He tries to be grand.
He tries to be grand, but when he realises that isn't what she wants, he hides it.
Yeah.
And obviously he can't read this in Charlotte. And in all fairness, the audience, we can't read it in Charlotte either. Like, she is looking so impressed. And part of me wonders, because he doesn't then go back forward and do the last night again, whether he would have stood anything of a chance
Right.
with her on the last
Or
night.
if he tried other nights, because this is a month into her stay that he goes to.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And-
does he try other ones, and how does that go? Is he always
Well, but
trying
on-
too
on-
big a gesture?
Right. On the other hand, if what he wants is to make a big gesture and for her to be like, "Oh yes, let's be together and whatever," and she's never gonna meet him at that level.
Yeah.
Maybe it's for the best. I mean, clearly it's for the best. But like, if I would almost say that he shouldn't change tactics if what he wants to do is make a grand gesture and have a big romance and whatever.
Because, yeah.
He could easily hook up. He could do a hookup thing, and maybe she'd be into that. But if that's not what he wants, then he should be true to himself about that.
I mean, we see later on that that's exactly what she's into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's odd. But I also like to believe that he doesn't go forward again. That he reads in this situation, she's never going to want me.
Yeah.
I've got to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Tim's got that character about him.
In terms of your interpretation of him telling this story, I think that's what he's conveying too. It didn't work on the last night. I gave it another shot. It still wasn't going to work because that's who I was at the time.
I know
That's who she
teenage me
was.
would have been like, all right again. Maybe it was that I did it on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
finding
yeah.
excuse after excuse after excuse.
Maybe
to
it
just
should be in
keep
the
going back.
afternoon or first thing in the morning.
Right. Oh, she's just eaten. She's tired.
You got
Sure,
2 months
sure.
worth of days to work with here.
See, but once again, Tim is 21. Like,
Sure.
he does feel like a teenager.
Yes.
He
in
does.
these bits. But then, once again, if he's conveying the story as an older adult talking about himself at 21, he's looking at himself as naive as a teenager,
Right.
even though he's not. So maybe that's why we're seeing him in such a light. Is there anything more on the visuals on this minute before we go straight into 17?
No, I mean, we already talked about how she leans in, she hops on her knees and invites him onto the bed. When he mentions her hair, she's like touching her own hair. She's both used to guys doing this and is probably used to saying no.
Yep.
I mean, if I were Tim and I didn't have time travel ability, I just said this to Margaret. Most of the last speech she had to Margot Robbie, that he said a couple of minutes ago. Like, I would consider that quite a good point to have ended on. Like, I think she's trying to be nice, and I think if he didn't have time travel, I would at least have taken that as a compliment. I wouldn't have left feeling completely rejected. I would have gone like, that was worth it, because I know that, she doesn't think of me as a complete fool.
Right.
And I know
Right.
that she appreciated what I said to her, even if it didn't lead to anything else. So I think it's just unfortunate at this point that he can travel in time and can see through her facade. Really. I mean, at the end of the day, we find out that the main point of this film is that it is unfortunate that he can travel in time.
Right.
Like, that's the whole end.
Well, yeah,
Meaning.
it's like a temptation thing. It's like a Faustian, like, if you could do it over, if you had the ability, would you and should you? Absolutely.
And when you screw it up, can you fix it?
Right. Are you always going to screw it up?
Yeah.
Ugh. Love time travel.
So, to go straight into minute 17, we didn't actually talk about last minute how it starts on that sort of long / mid shot through the door, and it does move into close-ups as it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
And then when she says this bit, now I'll tell you what, why don't we see how the summer goes, and then you ask me again on my last night, it's back to the uncomfortable long shot. And I mean, it is one of my biggest laughs in the film whenever she says that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he has to be, like, the audience is with him in, like, I already tried that. That was what I tried first. But he can't say that to her because that's not going to win anyone over.
No.
But
I think, the fact that we then cut straight to his reaction as well, like, it's just, it's so funny.
yeah. Oh.
It is, like, I know this is coming every time, but it's one of my favourite scenes. And this whole sequence is a scenes you could sort of just show to someone and go like, they don't need to know anything else about the film.
Yeah.
But that sort of expresses what a lot of the film is like.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I was doing something ages ago with my media studies coursework where I had to show different examples, and I used this scene. I attempted for my presentation using this scene, and I would really have loved to see how people receive it when they haven't seen the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to hopefully at some point getting a guest on the show who hasn't seen the film, which has really surprised me. I thought there'd be so many.
It really is kind of a short story encapsulation of the whole thing. It's like this is almost the fable around which the entire thing is built, and I think that's really cool.
if they'd written and filmed a short film pitch to take to working title or Universal and be like, this is the film we want to make.
Yeah,
this is the scene that you'd use.
Yep. Absolutely.
So then Tim's response is brilliant, where he just goes, "Your last night." Yes. And then she's, "Try me on the last night. See what happens then, shall we? It's exciting."
I love how she says
Right.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Right. No. It's a perfect plan. That's absolutely perfect. Last night. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And then Now I'm in Tim headspace, because I'm like, but then what if he did try her on the last night, and because he laid the groundwork on the first night, or early on, then is it going to change? Oh, this is why I shouldn't have time travel. We've found it.
I assume that he tries over and over, but we get the point just seeing this, and so we don't need to see all that.
You assume that. I assume he gave up.
How long it takes him to learn big lesson number 1 is definitely, I think, a key character sort of decision that we have to sort of make.
I figure it's like this is the Groundhog Day sequence where he gets slapped a bunch of times, and he just doesn't tell that in his telling of the story. He's like, I got the point really quick. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It is, being his telling of the story, he could have made this so much better than it actually is.
Well, no, he's making it better. He's cleaning it up. It's like,
yeah.
I got the point right away. I was fine. I moved on.
But so then it's last night. Thanks very much. Night night, Timmy, which she says. That's so patronising. It doesn't come across as flirtatious at all, really.
Right.
It's like that's just the final stab.
Right.
It's not even the friend zone, it's the brother zone.
Right.
And yeah.
Timmy.
And then you've got his narration, big lesson number 1. All the time travel in the world can't make someone love you. And yeah, I think it is great and important that we learn this straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think maybe it makes it easier for us to feel comfortable with Tim sort of reliving his time with Mary later in the film.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he's introduced the idea that you can't make someone love you means that, Mary still loves him anyway.
Yeah, in that you can't make someone love you, it's sort of there's a corollary that you can't change what someone's feelings for you are, regardless of what they are, one way or the other. You can't turn the light switch on or off. So it's like, yeah.
So it makes him come across sort of less stalkery with
right.
Mary later on.
Well, that's the big problem with Groundhog Day. Is that it's like, let me shape myself to trick you into falling in love with me in one day. That's no good. It's done well, and I love that movie. But my co-host Erin watched it, and she was like, never occurred to me before how weird it is that he's like, okay, I will just change that about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, to look at the deleted scene that we looked at last week, Robert, when he does stuff like the whole pajama sequence and things, he is trying to change stuff about himself.
Immediately.
But then he realises that he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And one thing which I just found really jarring at the moment is when Tim leaves the room, he walks quite close to the camera, but then we've got the cut from over his shoulder, and that's such sort of a jarring cut.
Yeah.
And I think once again it adds to the awkwardness.
Yeah.
And his his little look back before he leaves and shuts the door. Yeah, it's just. And then we go straight to Charlotte jumping in the car with Kit Kat on the wheel, which once again, as described before, is the most dangerous scene in the film, as she cannot drive, and they were all very terrified as to how this whole scene was going to work out. I think they commented on the fact that you can actually sort of see in Kit Kat's face that she's kind of uncomfortable and worried.
I forgot. I had forgotten how much the sister, Kit Kat, is like just one of my favorite characters in this movie. Until I saw her in the scene, I was like, "Oh yeah, love this."
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll get to it in the next minute. But I forgot how much I'd loved his whole family situation.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lovely family situation.
Yeah. It's odd, but kind of idyllic, like idyllic, I guess. Like I love it. I mean, it would be stressful, but if you were used to it, it would be fine. Ah, so good. Anyways, my last note is literally, I love his sister.
And I mean, part of it as well, like, this might just be because I feel like my family is quite similar, it might just be the case, that I think they leave enough room for you to be able to place your own family into them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, Tim's family feels like my family. Like...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an Uncle Desmond. I think life
You are
would be...
the Uncle Desmond.
Maybe I am. But, like, I think my dad can be like James. I think my mum can be like Mary. I think my sister can be like Kit Kat. And, I mean, I think I'm a bit of a Tim. Not just for being a ginger British person.
Though that helps.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
I got a message from one of our upcoming guests the other day, and he literally messaged me saying, "I'm watching About Time now. I see why you like it. The lead is a ginger."
That's the only reason.
But then he said it turns out that he's seen it before and forgotten. And what I seem to realise is a lot of people, and even in my case, the first time they saw this film, forgot about it very shortly afterwards, and it didn't really click until the second time. And I don't know how I can make my friends watch this film twice to make sure that they appreciate it.
Well, I know my story is I was like, oh, that movie looks great, and then I saw it. I could buy it on DVD, and I was like, yep, gonna get this, and I owned it for like 5 months or something. And then I was like, you know what I should watch? Let's watch this. And I was like, yeah, I love it. It's great. Why didn't I watch it earlier? I owned it. I literally had it in my house for months before I put it on.
That was my experience yesterday with Baby Driver. Everyone has been telling me to watch it, and it was like, I had different... Like, I wanted to see it, but like every time I sat down, I just didn't want to watch it.
Yep.
And then yesterday I was like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm going to force myself to sit through this. And it wasn't much of a forcing. I sat down and I was like, wow, why did it take me so long?
Yeah. But when everyone is talking about it, it's a little bit hard, I think.
With About Time, especially, like, I didn't really know much about it, other than the fact it was a Richard Curtis film. And years and years now, I've just been... I don't know how long it's been, but I feel like I've been obsessed with Richard Curtis films for years. I've seen and own nearly everything he's done.
Yeah.
Some of them are very hard to come by. I mean, like, the sitcoms he wrote are incredible. I mean, you get Mr. Bean in America, right?
Yeah.
I have some experience with Mr. Bean. Yes.
It was on HBO a while back.
Yeah. Our drama teacher showed us some Mr. Bean to show us about like non-verbal, like physical comedy and stuff.
Yeah. So he wrote Mr. Bean alongside Rowan Atkinson.
Okay.
He also
start.
He also wrote with Rowan Atkinson Blackadder. Don't know if you get that in the States either.
I'm familiar. I'm familiar.
He wrote a show which none of you I've spoken in the States seem to know anything about, called The Vicar of Dibley, which is amazing. It is one of the funniest things on television. It's just. Do you know Dawn French, the comedian?
No.
Okay, well, it's about a vicar who's played by Dawn French, and it's in the 90s.
Okay.
So it's like this traditional church who their old vicar has died, and they're looking forward to seeing who their next vicar is, and then it turns out to be a woman.
My mother-in-law and her wife watched that. I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly certain that they watched a show that was I think Vicar was. It had to have been that. It had to have been that. Interesting. Okay.
Well, it's just a very, very funny
Yeah.
series. And then he obviously went on to do 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Notting
Sure.
Hill, Love Actually, Boat
Yeah.
That Rocked,
Yesterday.
Bridget Jones, Yesterday. I've watched all 3 Bridget Jones films in the past 2 days, and I really enjoyed them. He didn't do the last one, but
I
the
forgot
second
there was
Bridget
a
Jones
third one.
film it's all right.
Yeah.
I forgot about like everything that happened in the second film,
Yeah.
and it's really good. I think it's my
Huh.
favourite of the 3.
Interesting.
The second one I really like.
Huh.
I think the first one I've watched too many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 Weddings and a Funeral never really worked for me, so I'm going to try and give that a go again.
My wife really likes 4 Weddings and a Funeral, so she showed it to me, and it's really good to have someone who already appreciates it in the room, because like at least I found, like, she was like, wait, watch this, and like that works for me at least.
And then the tall guy, I'm indifferent on.
The tall guy, I don't know that one.
Jeff Goldblum.
Huh.
Where he does a
Not
musical
heard
of Elephant Man.
Yeah, although that whole sequence of the Elephant Man musical is like, it's not even like that funny. It's just really entertaining.
Yeah.
It's-
I saw
Like,
that
I just
movie
found
while
myself-
in England, actually.
I saw it for the first time, like, I think a week or 2 into lockdown.
Oh.
I'd been meaning to get it for ages. It's just like, even though it's still really cheap, it was like £5 or £6 for the DVD. Every other Richard Curtis film I've found in second-hand stores for like 50p. So £5 for the film made me think, like, is it really worth it? And then I basically just thought, I've been thinking this for a year. I'm going to buy it. And I still don't know what I think. It's not his strongest, but it's all right. I might. I'm generally thinking, when we get to maybe like a few, probably about 20 or 30 episodes away from finishing this show, so ages away, that I might just look at like a different Richard Curtis film each episode as like an end segment, and just like go through his entire filmography.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's only a couple that I'm missing, and I might as well buy them. But yeah, it's fascinating. One final note, just in terms of Richard Curtis, 'cause I've been listening to loads of interviews with him recently. Was I heard him say one thing where it was like, people look at his films and say that they're like unrealistic in their portrayals of like love and romance, and he was like, thousands of people fall in love every day. And yet, if someone made a film about like a serial killer murdering babies, people would say that's jarringly realistic. And he's like, so how does that work?
Right. Well, I mean, like, for me, I think it's important not to be like, this exact situation could happen to me. And more like the tone, or like find, like you were saying about finding your family in his family. Like, find your on-ramp to where you connect to this movie. Please, for most rom-coms, do not mimic the actions of the characters involved in the movie. It's not going to end well for anyone involved, but find your on-ramp. I mean, like
the end point that so many people could get out of rom-coms is, if the girl says no, just ask her until she says yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about why she says no.
Morals.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
People.
And I think,
yeah.
I mean, literally, this film has debunked that 17 minutes in.
Yeah.
When he says, all the
They
time
got
travel in
that
the
out of the
world
way,
can't
yeah.
make someone love.
Right.
Like, he's already gone, this isn't a typical rom-com. Like, you
Right.
know? So, to conclude this minute, we've got, he says, bye, and then it's so the love of my life just drove away, and the very next day it was my turn to. And we've got Uncle Desmond's amazing moment here.
Well, don't skip
Like, it's
Kit
still-
Kat. Sitting on
What
the
does
hood.
Kit Kat
She's
do?
sitting on the hood of the car, looking all sad with purple beads in her
Yeah.
hair. She'll do better
Oh,
next
yeah,
minute,
yeah.
but she's just sitting there pouting.
Oh yeah, and it's a less colourful jumper as well.
Yeah.
Like maybe that is deliberate.
Ugh.
So then we've got Uncle Desmond. There you go. Don't spend it all at once, and like gives him a couple of quid. And it's just so brilliant.
Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at British coins, but I think it's £2 and like a 20p coin.
Well, our coins have changed since.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, that is £2, and it might be 50.
Like, that's not a lot of
Oh,
money.
No, it looks like it could even be £3 and like 50 and maybe like a 10.
Ooh. Tim's rich.
I can't tell whether it's just whether I mean, looking at based on like his outfits, like they're a rich family,
Right.
Right now, Desmond doesn't know what year it is. He thinks it's a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, those pound coins are probably worth a bit in a couple of years since we've changed them. I don't know. Maybe he's from then. Anyway, is there any final comments on this minute before we wrap up
No.
this episode?
None from me.
Okay. So, James, is there anywhere our listeners can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at unabashedjames. That's a great place. I retweet basically anything that I'm on, and also try and promote other people that are doing cool things that I see. So yeah, at unabashedjames on Twitter is the best place.
And, Robert, where can the listeners find you?
Find links to all my podcasts and my blog at lemmingdrops.com. And if you feel like dealing with my annoying politics and me being weird about movies, even weirder than on a podcast, follow me on social media, Robert E.G. Black.
There's some very interesting movie stuff on your social media.
Oh, especially my Facebook.
Yeah. The thing I like about your Facebook is often because, time zones are completely different. I'll wake up to one of your comments on a random film and have to go back through your timeline to figure out what film it was.
Well, a couple times I deliberately didn't say what movie I was watching and then started doing the live comments. And people wake up the next day, they're like, what are you even talking about? Like, I don't know, what do you think I'm talking about?
I mean, and I've got things to say on your Passion of the Christ thing, which I just won't say.
We can talk about it when you're on Cock and Bull, if you want.
Yes. And it will lead to the last episode of 2 Minutes About Time.
That's when you kick me off this show.
Or you kick me off the show. We both got the power here. Anyway, the listeners can find me on social media, on Twitter at llama_bottle0. It's a very old Twitter, and I can't be bothered to change my name. They can find me on Instagram at thegingerluke. They can find all of my content at lukeallen.co.uk. And this podcast is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2minsaboutime. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you come back to listen on Wednesday. Toodle pip. Haven't said that one yet. There we go. The 2 Minutes About Time theme is performed by Ethan O'Mahony and is a cover of the About Time theme originally composed by Nick Laird-Close. 2 Minutes About Time is a production of Lemming Drop Studios in association with Bottle O Productions.